Today we're making spaghetti and meatballs, but with a special kind of spaghetti and a special kind of meatballs. We'll be using zucchini for the spaghetti. Zucchini is very low carb and extremely healthy, so it's a great substitute for flour-based pasta. And for the meatballs, we're going to be adding a special filling inside the meatballs. So let's start with making the meatballs. The first thing we're going to do is grate up some Parmesan cheese. We're going to want a very good amount for the meatballs, give it an extra layer of flavor. After grating the Parmesan cheese, we're going to cut some garlic into really small pieces. And we're also going to cut some shallots. Half of the garlic and shallots will be used to flavor the zucchini noodles, and the other half will be used to flavor the meatballs. After that, we're going to take half of the garlic and shallot mixture and pound it into a paste. By making it into a paste, it's a lot easier to mix it into the ground beef that we're using to make our meatballs. So give it a really nice pound. And the next thing we're going to do is add all these ingredients with a bunch of seasoning together to form the meatballs. So go ahead and add a generous amount of salt and pepper, about 1 tablespoon. Next, we're going to add some parsley. I use dry parsley, but you can also use fresh parsley. Doesn't really matter though because it's all going to go into a meatball into the oven. The next thing I added was about 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder, and then I added in the grated Parmesan cheese. We're also going to need 1 cup of breadcrumbs. This is so that the meatballs can hold together. And we're going to actually add 2 eggs, and finally about 1.5 pounds of ground beef. Mix all the ingredients really well together, first using your hands, and then after that you can use a spatula to stir it. Stir until all the ingredients are homogeneous and you are ready to form your meatballs. So we're actually going to be using a secret ingredient or 2 secret ingredients for the filling of the meatball, and this is going to give it extra flavor when the meatballs bake. So we're actually going to be using peanut butter and oyster or hoisin sauce. To do this, we're going to want to have our peanut butter and hoisin sauce actually chilled. So you want to make sure this is in the refrigerator before you use it. Go ahead and form a half circle with your peanut butter, then pour in about a tablespoon of hoisin sauce, and then form another half circle of peanut butter on top of that. Next, you're going to form a half circle of meatball. Place the peanut butter inside the half circle of meatball and then form the second half circle of meatball for the top. What you're going to want to do is actually smooth out the meatball. So what I did was basically just use my palms to smooth and even out the ground meat all the way so that there aren't any cracks. The more cracks there are, the more potential there is for the sauce inside to leak out of the meatball while it's baking in the oven. So we don't really want that. I went ahead and made 4 peanut butter filled meatballs and also used the rest of the ground beef to make 2 mini meatballs. And we're going to stick the meatballs into the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. Next, we're going to make our zucchini noodles. I found out that to make zucchini noodles, all you need to do is put the zucchini through this special vegetable spiralizer. I bought it for $8 at H-E-B, so it was pretty straightforward to use. You want to just stick the zucchini straight down in through the cone and give it a twist, and it will naturally come out as noodles. For the zucchini noodles toppings, we're going to use the other half of the shallots and garlic and also throw in some cherry tomatoes. I went ahead and cooked that until the cherry tomatoes were soft. Then I added all the cooked veggies onto the zucchini noodles, and now we want to season our zucchini noodles with some sesame oil and olive oil. If you want a more dry noodle, I would suggest using salt and pepper instead of the other liquid ingredients I'm going to use. But before that, I added some parsley and sesame oil. I also added a bit of salt anyways. However, at this point, I added 2 tablespoons of apple vinegar and a tablespoon of soy sauce. So once again, if you want the noodles to be more dry or oily instead of kind of like a wet, saucy noodle, then I would suggest just using salt and pepper. go ahead and give the noodles a good toss. After 30 minutes, the meatballs should be completely done and you'll see the Parmesan cheese kind of oozing out. Luckily, the peanut butter and hoisin sauce for the most part stayed within the meatballs, and now it's time to plate. I went ahead and added a generous amount of zucchini noodles to the base and added the 2 mini meatballs and finally 1 large peanut butter and hoisin sauce filled meatball. Now this dish was absolutely delicious and very healthy. It hits all your macros while keeping the carb very low and the protein really high. And it's also chock full of vitamins from all the veggies. The most appetizing part of this dish is definitely the meatballs. When you split the meatball in half right out of the oven, the peanut butter and hoisin sauce is melted and it just kind of melts throughout the meatball. So when you eat that, you get a mouthful of flavor that is so intense. It's an insane flavor explosion in your mouth. I want to give special thanks to my college friend Aqil for recommending zucchini noodles. Now, I took the recipe and just kind of ran with it. I didn't follow any guide for this dish. I kind of just thought of it in the spot and used all the ingredients and the proportions for the ingredients. I kind of just made it up on the spot and it turned out really delicious. So I would definitely suggest following this recipe if you'd like to try it out. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how good those meatballs taste, despite how unconventional the recipe. If you like this video, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It really helps a lot. Thank you and have a fantastic day.